we've been looking for our Pro Player Pathway program to add in a full-time nutritionalist and bring that in, but I really questioned it all because I thought we need to make sure, do we actually know what people should be eating? So when I met Chelsey, she told me about this food compatible test, and one of the big things in Europe, which is getting really popular with two of the biggest pro clubs at the moment, is what we call intolerance testing.
I'm glad you brought that up, because as a naturopath, I'm not going to do a diet plan for anybody now unless they have done this hair compatibility test as well, because it's just guessing. Yeah. Everybody's different. Everyone's an individual. What's happening in your gut is completely different to what's happening in mine.
It's like with anything, when we've looked at it, we said if the fuel going into the car is not right, the car's not going to run effectively. With our Pro Player Pathway program, it's the world's only niche personalised football development program. Like, this is the final piece, because we're all about giving our players the best opportunity, giving them those 1%ers. But one of the things that, going back to the Pro Player Pathway, we try and make it as personal as possible. This is the beauty of this, is that it's personalised to every individual. We're very pleased to announce for everyone who's on our Pro Player Pathway, they're going to get this test. And what was really interesting to me was there's so many nutritionalists in pro clubs in the UK and in Europe, but they don't actually look at it from this level. They're not actually looking at personalised, and this is what's blown me away. And
they'll tell you to have fat, a protein, a carbohydrate at each meal and those types of things, and then say, oh, well, maybe reduce the gluten, go with lactose-free milk. But at least now with this list, you've got the actual brand that you can have. It's not just a guessing game. So you take that to the shops and you're like, okay, this is what I can have and this is what I need to remove.
I mean, the benefits for this is...
Well, if your body doesn't have to worry about digestion and the mess that you're making in your tummy, if it doesn't have to worry about that, it can then do the extra work that it needs to around the rest of the body, can't it? So it's going to get there faster and help repair.
So going back to the test, is this again only for adults, or can this be for children? And
definitely for children. From a point of view of kids growing up, yes, definitely. Find out early. The kids that we talk to, when they find the list, and they will then be the parent and say, oh no, I can't have that, and they learn themselves, and they feel so much better that they will help with their diet. Get your kids involved with their diet and their eating as early as you can, getting them to eat healthy food, getting them to check the labels, look at all of those foods that end in OSE that we can't pronounce or spell.
Yeah.
Get them having a look and involved in their diet early, and then we're healing their belly all the way through, so when they become adults, they won't have this issue.
The savings that it could make in the
Massive.
medical world is huge. I mean, we work with players anything aged roughly from 5 or 6 all the way through to 23. So we already know we've got the world's best development program in developing football players, and we now know how to fuel the car and how to get the right food into there. It was really interesting. We did speak to one pro club back in the UK, and they said they looked at this about 7 or 8 years ago, and the costs were exponential. It was like in the region of like £5,000 to get the test done.
Yeah.
But obviously, I take it now, like, costs have come down with the test, and we're gonna add it into the program. So what was really interesting for any of our listeners who are outside of Australia, finally, I think, to finish on the list of foods that we get, and also it also includes drinks on there. But you spoke about to me before we got on the podcast that it actually specifies the city you're in. And does that mean if you're in England, we don't have Vegemite, but we have Marmite?
Yes.
Does it list English foods?
Definitely. It doesn't matter where you're from, whether it's New Zealand or US, UK. There's, I think, 26 different countries that we test.
Wow, because that's really important for us, because on our Pro Player Pathway program, we discover the players, whether they be in Australia or the US, who's our two biggest markets that we work in. We then send them for guaranteed trials to the UK and to Europe, but also we guarantee them scholarships. So a lot of them will end up in Europe and the UK, and I think it's really prevalent for us that we can then follow on this test and maybe get tested again in the UK, so they get tested against British foods as an example.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, so that's really good.